Hey Browns fans, this is your chance to join the company of some of the Browns' all-time greats on the first ever Browns fan cruise. Picture this. For 5 unforgettable days, you're sailing across the beautiful Caribbean Sea, reliving the Browns' greatest moments, getting autographs, snapping photos, and celebrating on the beach with your favorite Browns alumni, like Josh Cribbs, Webster Slaughter, Eric Metcalf, and a dozen others. Book now and take advantage of our easy, budget-friendly payment plans on this once-in-a-lifetime, all-inclusive cruise adventure. The clock's ticking, Browns fans. To book your cabin and for more information, visit brownsfancruise.com or call 216-284-6472 today. Browns Fan Cruise, where diehard fans and Browns alumni come together for the trip of a lifetime. Don't wait. Secure your spot today. And go Browns!
It's time for the Burning River Sportscast. The preseason is over, and boy, are there a lot of storylines heading into week 1. Roster cuts are underway, and we're getting closer and closer to nailing down our final 53. And despite finally getting some answers, it still feels like there are a lot of questions. Lucky for you, as the weather starts to turn down, Kenny Thunder and Red Hot Ronnie Jams are just turning it up. What does it all mean? As your faithful stewards, we'll break it all down for you next on the Burning River Sportscast.
I'm just really excited to get those soil samples.
But what am I supposed to do? Congratulate a Browns coaching staff on doing the one thing that everybody in the room could agree on?
Turns out he's got, and you wrote in here, an Uber Jimmy John, which I think translates in Kenny speak to he has a UCL injury and may require Tommy John surgery.
That's correct.
I know that we're kind of both closet WWE fans. Not really closet. I mean, I'll tell anybody.
I'm out.
Wrestling's pretty cool. Njoku, Chubb. You got Cooper. You got.
So your take is just naming names. Okay.
Thank you. I said why I think they're going to be good. I hate my co-host sometimes. Like, sometimes I just wish I could punch him right in the dick.
Dustin Hopkins is the truth. He's going to win us every game.
Welcome into the Burning River Sportscast, presented by Tappan Media and brought to you by the Cleveland Browns Fan Cruise. I'm Kenny Thunder, seated beside the only man who has lost his virginity twice, Red Hot Ronnie Jams. You know what they say, measure twice, cut once. Board out today, the man who owns everything the light touches, except for the elephant graveyard, the Big Bone Man. Bone Man, how's it hanging?
It's going good. Go it, boys.
Ronnie, 2 questions.
Yo.
If 20% of the world is Chinese and you have 5 children, will one of them be Chinese? And 2, where can all of our Chinese friends find the Burning River Sportscast?
Yes, absolutely. And they can find our podcast wherever they get their podcasts. I'm talking Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Castro, Good Pods, and so many more. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, the only place that you can find our video podcast. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Our handle for all of those socials, including YouTube, is at Burning River Sportscast. And we are on X as well with the handle Burning River Pod.
The artist formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, the artist. Oh, and while you're at it, while you're online doing all that stuff, go ahead and check out our merch, www.thetapinmedia.com/shop. We got shoes, hats, mugs, mouse pads, shirts, shorts, flags, phone cases, and we've dropped the cruise line.
The cruise line is officially dropped.
So make sure you check that out along with everything else in the store. We're constantly adding new things. It's pretty dope. Pretty dope, I guess. But you know what that takes us to?
No.
The Burning River News Story of the Week.
I get it now.
Yeah, so India landed on the moon, huh?
We've landed on the moon!
No way. No, it's seriously though, like it's pretty crazy that supposedly we landed on the moon back in what, the 60s, and nobody's gone back since.
Well, we went back a couple of times, but all in the 60s.
We did.
In fact, it might have been the early 70s. Actually, was the last Apollo mission that made it to the moon. But yeah, I mean, good for India, I guess.
You think they could send us a picture of our flag so that we know that we were actually there once?
It would be fucking nice if somebody could validate that once and for all for us.
Or take pictures of the actual footsteps.
And if I was India, I would be motivated to do it. I'd be like, screw America. I'm going to prove to you that you weren't there. And then the emperor has no clothes.
The emperor has no... True, yeah. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain,
Like, what if that happened and India could then say, we were the first people on the moon?
It changes everything.
Changes all of human history.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, India, here's your shot. Here's your shot.
Yeah, so I heard that they've left, 9 bags of, human waste on the moon. They should go find those. And if they can't, we didn't go.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that humans know how to do, it's wreck everything that we touch. So let's just leave some waste.
Well, we couldn't take it back.
They were literally in space, and they're going to just throw it out in space. They just left it on the moon.
It was too heavy for the lunar lander to take off again.
Yeah. All right.
Well, at the time we thought we would build a moon colony there. And we'd be back a lot of times.
Well, yeah. I mean, by now that should have happened, right?
But then we were like, we don't really need to go. Which just makes no sense to me.
Why was there this race to get to the moon and then all of a sudden everything just stopped?
Everything stopped. Once we won, it was like it's over.
Zach, Bone Man, do you have anything to say about this?
I'm just really excited to get those soil samples, and then I believe India is going to let us know the temperature of the soil.
Oh wow!
And the South Pole of the moon. So really looking forward to that.
Do we anticipate it being cold because it's in the South Pole?
There's reports that the temperature 8 centimeters into the soil is colder or warmer than the temperature outside of the soil.
This is why Zach.
Hold on a second.
Bone is the resident historian.
Hold on a second, Zach. Boner just told us this. He just said that the temperature 8 centimeters down is colder or warmer than the temperature.
I'm still waiting for those reports from India. So
it could literally be anything.
Yes, I'm not sure what it's going to be.
This is called Climate Science 101.
Yeah. It could be colder. It could be warmer.
I'm ecstatic.
One of those things.
I can't wait.
Here's the thing. It's been said that no one's ever been to the dark side of the moon. Well, no one has ever been to the dark side of my moon either.
Mysterious. Sorry. Anyways, we're gonna move on from India landing on the moon because this we didn't. This wasn't good. That'll take us to the Burning River rundown.
Show is already off the rails.
Yeah, like the head bob there. As always, we're going to start the Burning River rundown with the Cleveland Browns because we are a Cleveland Browns podcast.
Cleveland Browns podcast.
And as you can see, I'm wearing the We Almost Always Almost Win shirt because we're coming fresh off the heels of losing to the Chiefs in our final preseason game. A game that we held a, 18-point lead, something like that?
We almost won.
But we didn't. We almost always almost win. So here we are. But the preseason is officially over.
Woo!
The Browns' record in this preseason, 1-2-1.
Perfect. Just like the regular season.
Yeah. So we've said from the beginning the main goal of the preseason is to stay healthy. You want your team healthy going into the season. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for the Browns.
No.
We had a couple defensive linemen already go down earlier in the in the preseason that we talked about. Won't be back until probably week 4 or so. But in this latest game, Jakeem Grant also tore his ACL and he is done for the season.
Wasn't it a patellar tendon?
Oh yeah, it was a ruptured patella. You're right.
Yeah.
They updated it. It was a suspected torn ACL.
Either way, his knee is blown.
Yeah. So Jakeem Grant done for the season, which is a tough break for him. He finally made it back from injury.
Terrible break.
And here we go again.
I mean, the Achilles last year and the patellar this year. For a guy that I was super excited about, like when we got him, and I was like, "This is going to be great." And now we just never get to see him be a Brown, and we probably won't at this point.
We probably won't. He's probably going to get released with injury designation,
and I just don't know how. I mean, he's 30 years old. You got a patellar and an Achilles. Like those are just
devastating injuries, especially for a guy that counts on speed. Also, in injury news, Denzel Ward got his 4th concussion in this game, could miss the opener, could even shorten his career. I mean, again, it's his 4th concussion. He's 26 years old. So, and I know you had a question, so go ahead and ask your question.
Well, my question is, look, I know Stefanski's always the smartest guy in the room, but like,
I'm back to Stefanik. By
what
the way.
was the plan here? Why did we have our starters playing in the 4th preseason game? If you wanted to play, the game before that was probably the one to play them in, so you get guys back into the week if they get injured or whatever. What was Zell even doing out there? You've got Myles Garrett, who didn't play, Nick Chubb, who was a scratch. Why? Because those are the best players on your team. You would think that at this point, with the contract Zell has, he's earned the right to sit in the preseason.
No,
we got him out there playing against the Chiefs.
Absolutely has
against
not.
the Chiefs backups.
Yeah,
it wasn't even like the Chiefs starters were playing.
No.
And we got Zell out there. For what reason? Oh, so we can get a concussion. Great. And here's the bad thing. This is his 4th concussion. On at least the one that we've counted.
Yep.
That's in today's NFL. You're starting to get to the point of I need to have a serious conversation with my family, whether or not I want to keep playing football, how much longer I want to keep playing football.
Yep.
And Zell's a young stud. Like we are going to count on him a lot this year. We want him back as soon as we can get him back, and he's one of the critical pieces of that defensive unit.
He's a mainstay. But, I mean,
but we got him out there just playing with jobbers in a week before the season
because
starts.
why not? Those guys are going 500 miles an hour just trying to make the team. What's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that could happen?
I
don't know.
But there was some good news on the injury or at least health concerns front this week. We did get Marquise Goodwin back. He's been cleared to play, blood clots and all.
Speaking of cleared to play, like what was the conversation with Jakeem Grant's doctors? Like you're good, man. Because he literally ran one time and fell over. Makes me question how close.
Like, what's the process there?
Like Marquise Goodwin is to being cleared to play. Like blood clots is a scary thing.
Hopefully they don't have the same doctors
to have happen to you, especially at a young age. What is there even like what's the explanation to give you for that? And then what's the explanation to give you for that? To like, hey, you're good now. We figured we got some blood thinners.
We were really concerned a month ago, but now you're good to go.
You're totally good. So
yeah, I'm not sure, but
I don't want to speculate that something bad's going to happen to him. But it's just
concerning.
It seems concerning to me that he's just like, hey, you're good.
Yeah, no, I agree. So with that, I mean, those are some of the injuries that we're talking about now that the Browns are dealing with. But I mean, with that, like I said, they were 1-2-1 in the preseason. So
which doesn't really matter.
No. I mean, preseason doesn't matter. But preseason discussion here. One of the good things that I saw in this preseason is I am very excited about the defense. We're coming off a season where the defense grossly underperformed last year. Looked bad, like really bad, most of the season. And so far, I think the thing that sticks out to me most is the defensive line really gets after it. Like they can cause some havoc back there and really hurry quarterbacks up. So I'm looking forward, and that's without our sack master. That's without our sack master back there just taking care of business. So I'm pretty excited to see what the defensive line's going to do in the regular season.
Can I throw a wet blanket on your parade?
Sure. I love it when you do that. It's my favorite thing that you do. You do it all the time. You hate the Browns.
I don't hate the Browns.
Sure.
My wet blanket would be a lot of the plays that were made, a lot of the turnovers, a lot of the good things that the defense did were by guys that have been cut today. So
thank you.
We didn't see a lot of the starters in the preseason, but these guys better motor just like these younger guys did that aren't going to be playing in the NFL this year, because a lot of the impressive stuff that happened was from younger guys who were trying to make a name for themselves that just didn't make the roster. And look, here's the other thing. I like Jim Shorts. We got the Jim Shorts line.
Hell yes.
I think Jim Shorts is a good coach. I'm hopeful that he can do a lot of things here. I also have to take a step back, though, and be realistic to say this is a new coach, new scheme, new play calls, new alignments, new everything. Not to mention you have different guys calling the plays when you're out on the field because all of your linebackers were hurt last year. So I'm assuming Anthony Walker is going to take the brunt of those duties again, but he missed most of last year. So just new calls, new coach. It's going to take a while for this unit to gel. I don't expect a lot of like really impressive defense out of these guys until week 5 or 6.
Man, you just hate the Browns.
No, I'm just being realistic. Like I don't think like miscues and miscalls and guys not being where they're supposed to be. Those are going to happen in the first month or two of the season.
We had a guy in the execution of the loser for King of the North say that the Browns were going to go 24-0,
and he was already wrong because
he was excited.
He counted the preseason games.
The weird part was that wasn't even like the first preseason.
No.
Well, I guess we had won the first one, so whatever. But anyways, so the defense, I look at the defense as a good thing so far. As far as just coming out of I liked what I saw coming out of the preseason.
Well, I'm optimistic. I'm just saying I want people to also be realistic, because if this defense doesn't start as hot as they looked during the preseason, I don't want people to get down on them, because they're going to get better. I believe
you don't want people to turn on them as quick as they turned on Cade York.
We'll have that conversation in a second, I'm sure. But yeah, I just think that they have to be patient with this defense, because there are a ton of good players out there now. But it's gonna take time, just like anything else. I mean, we had Deshaun last year. We thought, Deshaun's good, great. Well, what did he look like after 6 games? Not very good, did he? I think we're gonna have a lot of similar feelings after 6 weeks of this Browns defense before they start to play really well.
Yeah, and we mentioned Cade York, so I'll move on to the bad of the preseason. The bad of the preseason has been the special teams in general, not just Cade York, but we had this whole Cade York versus Bajorquez, because there's this big debate out there right now going on. There was this big debate going on. Was it Cade York that was missing the kicks, or was it Bajorquez's bad holder, because he's been released from multiple places because in part his holding has been piss poor. No need to have that debate anymore, because Cade York is gone as of today. He's not officially gone as of today. Today's Monday. We record on Mondays. But he will be released tomorrow on Tuesday, and the Browns have traded for Dustin Hopkins from Los Angeles. So, like I just said, Cade York, everybody turned on him pretty quick. I mean, he didn't have as bad of a rookie season as everyone likes to say he had. There were some bad moments, but overall, I mean, he had a pretty normal rookie season for a kicker. And then coming into this year, obviously, I know he's missed a lot of kicks in the preseason, but it was kind of crazy how quickly it went from some optimism. I mean, it's a far fall from grace after hitting the first in his first game with the Browns. He had a 58-yard game winner against Carolina to beat Baker Mayfield and the boys to where we're at now. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk.
Look, I just think that the optics were bad. I don't disagree. The optics were bad, and every time he went to kick, I held my breath.
Hey, there's a mascot,
which was totally different than last year. I think we felt really good about Cade last year. Here's the thing about Cade. Cade has talent. You don't get drafted in the 4th round by an NFL team if you don't have talent. So we know he has talent, and we know he has a hell of a leg because he could kick it 60 yards. That's not a talent or a skill that all kickers have in the NFL. Now, if you can't get through the uprights, that doesn't much matter, I guess. But here's the thing. Kickers miss kicks, and especially in today's NFL where we've moved the extra points back. It's not a sure thing anymore. Everybody likes to get all over these kickers and they miss an extra point because you have to make those. And by and large, they do to the tune of some 90-some%, but that means 10% of those kicks are missed all season long. I've seen Justin Tucker miss kicks. I mean, and he's probably the best to do it. At least in today's game. I just think that the standard for kickers is so damn high that as soon as a kicker feels it misses a couple of kicks that everybody wants to just write them off. And in turn, you end up writing off guys that have talent.
May develop later on.
You look at guys like Greg Joseph, Zane Gonzalez, who the Browns have cut in the last couple of years. Like, those guys have jobs on NFL teams today. And Cade York's not an exception. He'll have a job again in the NFL. He certainly was going through something right now, something mental. But you know what I put that on? I don't put that on Cade. I put that on the fact that you brought in a new special teams coordinator this year.
Who was supposed to be phenomenal.
Who was supposed to be this big, players coach and was going to help out and turn the special teams unit around. And you've made a kicker who could kick it 65 yards worse in the offseason. So we can all point fingers at Cade York. That's easy because he's an easy release. It's harder to get rid of Ray Ventrone right now because we haven't seen the special teams be a disaster yet. All we've seen is Cade York be a disaster.
Well, and I mentioned it wasn't just Cade York. The return game hasn't been good in the preseason.
Even Cade's last kick wasn't even a bad kick. It was blocked. So Whose fault is that one?
Well, and I don't know, because then you have Stefanski after the game saying that it was Cade York's fault because he kicked it too low.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody needs to work with him on that. But
well, that goes back to is it Ventrone then? Because I mean, you should probably teach your kicker not to kick it so low if that's a problem.
I'm just and to come on the heels of a camp that he had that was exceptional. You talk to anybody that was at Browns camp all season long. The dude didn't miss a single kick at practice.
Like even through all these preseason games, didn't miss anything.
Didn't miss anything. And the minute he misses a couple of kicks in a game, you just want to write him off. So I just think that the standard, and I think quarterbacks are subject to this too, right? I mean, Tim Couch was the best quarterback in Cleveland until Baker Mayfield showed up. That was 20 years. And people were we couldn't get rid of Tim Couch fast enough.
Well, you want a more modern example of that? Geno Smith.
Sure.
I mean, everybody shit all over him and wrote him off. And he just needed a couple years to get his feet under him.
It's just the standard is so high. These guys don't have any chance to work through anything. They don't have any chance to develop any mental toughness or work through any problems they actually have, because as soon as they have a bad game or two, we're just nope, move on to the next one. So I blame the impatience of the human genome and Ray Ventrone.
It is crazy though, because if you just, and I know people will say it was different time, like all kinds of excuses that they'll give him. But if you graded Phil Dawson back in the day by the same standards that
he wouldn't make it.
At York, he'd have been cut after his rookie season.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think he bounced around a little bit before he got to Cleveland in the expansion team, and it was because of that. I mean, you look at Phil's early kick percentages; they weren't that good. Now, we got to love Phil Dawson because he was the only person that scored points for our team, but like that doesn't mean he was the greatest kicker of all time. Phil certainly missed kicks, so show me a kicker that's been 100% for their lifetime. You won't find one.
Yeah, so that's enough about our terrible special teams in the preseason. I'm sure we'll talk more about it when we do our season preview.
And leave Bajorquez alone. That dude punts the ball like 55 yards a
yeah, so glad they didn't go with that and say, let's just get rid of both of them.
And he's got the best punter hair in the game.
Oh, yeah. But so we did the good, we did the bad. I do have some interesting things here from the preseason. One, you were right all along. People are already calling for DTR to start, which I don't understand. I know he's played well in the preseason, but seriously. And then obviously we have the whole Josh Dobbs. We ended up trading. We cut Mond, so we're down to DTR as our backup. And people were calling for him to start. So
first things first, I need to understand this third quarterback rule, because the NFL has implemented a new rule this year where you have an emergency third quarterback. But then I'm also hearing that this emergency third quarterback has to be on your active 53-man roster. So that doesn't seem like anything's changed to me, because I could just have a third quarterback on my roster.
No, but you have to designate them is what it is. So like whether it's a receiver or running back or whoever, you have to designate who your emergency third quarterback is.
But why wouldn't I just keep three quarterbacks on the roster then?
Well, because then you could have like for example, San Francisco's in the playoff game last year, they designated
Christian
McCaffrey as their emergency third quarterback, so it doesn't take up an extra roster spot. It's just they're already there.
But that's what I'm saying, is they have to be a part of the active 53-man roster. So that's what I don't understand.
That's why they don't carry a third quarterback, because an actual third quarterback would take up a roster spot. Christian McCaffrey's already on the team, so he's not taking up an extra roster spot.
But we could do that anyway in last year's rules, because Christian McCaffrey played quarterback. And we've seen Jarvis Landry and some other guys out in Denver. What was that kid's name? The wide receiver that played. I guess I just don't understand it. I need someone to actually explain it, because it still doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like you didn't really explain it at all. Bone, do you have a thought on this?
Can you explain that any other way? Because I think Kenny's just too stupid to figure it out.
No, I think it saves a roster spot instead of having three quarterbacks.
Are you stupid?
But I thought the point was that they don't want Christian McCaffrey to be the third quarterback anymore. They wanted to have a designated spot for a third quarterback because it kills the level of competition. So they wanted you to be able to have a third quarterback without losing a roster spot, which was, I thought, the intent was of the rule. So
are you saying there should be 54 roster spots?
There should be 53 men and then a guy that sits in the booth and he dresses and you call him if you need him. Kind of like the hockey goalie rule, where like they can just pull a coach off the bench because they need a goalie.
I don't know. I guess if that's how it's written, then I don't understand.
Because I thought the whole point was that when Christian McCaffrey takes over in a playoff game, we know who's going to win this playoff game, not the team that has Christian McCaffrey as the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll look into it. We'll get back to you guys on next episode here because we have no idea apparently.
But going back to DTR to start, I think the simple answer to this is that people don't like Deshaun Watson
until he starts winning. And
until he starts winning. But look, I'm gonna make sure that I keep an arm's distance here too, because as much as I want Deshaun to come back and be great, I stand by what I said last year that the allegations against him were serious. And on any level, if they were true at all, this is a man that had some serious emotional, mental health crisis or instability. And I don't know that that's someone that you want leading your NFL franchise. So we'll see if he can bounce back and become everything that we hoped he was. I certainly hope that he does. I don't want to see anything but the Browns win a Super Bowl. But I would be lying if I said I'm not still worried about that.
I mean, it's fair. And I'm with you, but here's the deal. He's going to be our quarterback.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, I know that. I'm just saying I think that's where there's some people that are never going to get over that. And then you throw this flashy new toy out there that can do all sorts of things that Deshaun does, and he's fast, and he's accurate, and he has cool tattoos that his friend put on him that he drew on himself. And, I think that there's likability factor there. And the fact that he's kind of an unknown, even though he's one of the most prolific college quarterbacks ever.
He's an underdog right now. He was drafted in, third, fourth round? So
wasn't he fifth round?
Fifth round. Yeah. So he was drafted in the fifth round, so everybody's looking at him like, oh, he's not expected to do anything. So when he does, it's you
get a little bit of the story. The Brock Purdy thing.
The Brock Purdy thing, the Tom Brady thing. I mean, not that he's ever going to be Tom Brady, but you know what I'm saying? Like that guy was drafted real low, and now he's doing something. Everybody likes to root for those guys. Unless you're Tom Brady and you do start winning, and then everybody hates rooting for you for a long time.
But sometimes those guys do have it.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
I mean, we could have just as easily said Drew Bledsoe is a cemented starter in this league, and who's Tom Brady? You're a 7th or a 6th round draft pick? Like, get out of here.
That's true. The final interesting thing I have here, though, is DeJuan Jones has started getting reps in practice at left tackle, which I find I would like to see how this develops, because we talked about it last time on the show, and it is difficult for a lineman to switch from right tackle to left tackle, and he was playing so well at right tackle, you wonder how it translates. But at the same time, we also always talk about how Jedrick Wills is a turnstile. So
yeah, Jed Wills is ass. I don't know what, I don't know if they go to a swing tackle before, just based on play earlier in the year. I don't know if it'll be DeJuan or not. What I'm excited about in DeJuan is the fact that this guy looks like he's going to be a player in the league for a long time.
Yep.
And whether he plays on the left side or the right side, it was a steal. And he looks light on his feet. He's athletic. He's huge.
That's probably the best compliment you could ever give that guy, because he's like the biggest guy alive, and if he's looking light on his feet, he's doing something right.
I mean, he looks like a guy that is giving full effort on every play, which you can't not like. So that's the important thing to me. I just don't want to put the cart before the horse on any of the DeJuan Jones stuff, because I just want to see him continue to develop and not put him in a situation where he's unprepared and then ends up, when you're unprepared, you end up doing things you shouldn't do, and that's how you get hurt, and that's what I don't want to see.
Absolutely.
DeJuan Jones.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But no, so that takes us to here's some of the cuts that have been made so far. Again, we are recording on Monday, so some of them are starting to roll in here. But the final roster isn't due until tomorrow, towards the end of the day, right? So late afternoon. So we won't know all of the cuts. I mean, you guys will know them when our episode comes out, but we won't know them until tomorrow.
And even once the 53-man is finalized on Tuesday, things will change in that week up to the game, because whether people are hurt or they find somebody off a team that cut them on Tuesday, there's often a lot of turnover just in that final week.
Yeah, but some of the notable names here: Anthony Schwartz. Thank God he's finally gone. Finally, Anthony Schwartz has been sent home from Berea.
I'm not even excited about this. Because
I don't know why. You've literally shit on Anthony Schwartz.
But what am I supposed to do? Congratulate a Browns coaching staff on doing the one thing that everybody in the room could agree on?
It's true.
He's the worst football player I've ever seen in my life. You can't just bring athletes in just because they're athletes and make them football players. That's just not how that works.
Worst football player ever?
He's the worst football player ever. He's a wide receiver that cannot catch the football.
But wait.
It'd be like if he didn't have legs and you were a track star.
Listen, there's a caveat here.
No, there's no caveat here.
They cut Anthony Schwartz with an injury designation.
True, so they could bring him back potentially, but I'm not going to get overly excited about this because I just think this was such low-hanging fruit for any NFL organization that you would have to be so incompetent. The incompetence we've seen over the last 2 years as this team has floundered, and people like Anthony Schwartz are reasons why. They're illustrations of the ineptitude in Cleveland at all times. Because what is this man doing on your roster? Absolutely nothing. So the fact that they did a good,
say it again,
good fucking job, guys. You did the one thing that everybody knew you should do. Now get out of here.
All right. Well, moving on, I guess. Next up here, we have Ronnie Hickman, which Ronnie Hickman was cut, and I'm really disappointed about this because what the hell else did this guy have to do to get a roster spot?
This is a travesty.
I mean, I will say Juan Thornhill in his limited time that he's played has looked
looks
phenomenal.
Fine. Looks great.
But so you know he's cemented the starting position. But,
sure.
But I don't know why they want to keep Ronnie Hickman as a depth piece and somebody that's just like, we don't want this guy on another roster.
And even as a
and he's a hometown. He went to Ohio State.
When you have DBs, I mean, you can sometimes slot him in as like an extra corner if you don't have room for him in your safety spots or something. But you would have thought they would have found some way to hang on to him. He had a tremendous preseason. I think he showed a ton of potential. And I think the reality is it's hard to be undrafted and make a team in the NFL.
That's fair.
So because even as well as he played. I mean, what else could he have done?
I will say this: we do have a number of good safeties on our roster, so I guess it's a good problem to have when you're trying to make these tough decisions. And I do understand it's a business, and tough decisions have to be made. So,
maybe one of those tough decisions was Grant Delpit, who would keep waiting for him to do anything good.
That's true. I mean, maybe he should have gone and not Ronnie Hickman.
Yeah.
I will say this: I think Ronnie Hickman is going to do something in this.
Yeah,
you're going to hear his name
get
again.
a job somewhere else. Yeah.
And then finally, we've already mentioned it, but we'll come back to it just real quick. Let's keep this brief. Cade York announced today that the Browns traded for Chargers kicker Dustin Hopkins. York will be on waivers tomorrow. And the only thing I'll kind of say again here is it feels bad. A guy that came in with such high hopes, the whole city of Cleveland had such high hopes for him. 4th round pick. Used on a kicker. You don't see that very often. Dude's got a cannon for a leg, and he hit a game winner in his first game with the Cleveland Browns. You thought it was like, and the rest was history. Well, not so fast. And here we are less than a calendar year later, and he is no longer a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah.
So it feels bad all around. Now with Dustin Hopkins, I will say this though: the Browns did end up with D-Hop after all.
Great.
It just wasn't the one everyone expected.
It was the white one, which is fine. But Dustin Hopkins didn't win the job in his own ball club. So basically, like, let's say the Browns had another kicker on their roster all offseason, and he didn't get the job. We were like, that's the guy we want.
Yeah.
I realize he's a veteran. He's been around in the league for a long time. But you know what else Dustin Hopkins has done in his career? He's missed kicks. So I give this. I mean, as impatient as this fan base is with their unrealistic
Mid-season?
expectations that every kick should be made, every extra point should be made. I give him till midseason before we're calling for just go get another kicker. They grow on trees. You could just find any kicker.
Are we going to start the Dustin Hopkins meter?
No, because Dustin Hopkins isn't a long-term fixture here in Cleveland. We feel like he's a more competent kicker than the one we had, and we hope we can get through the season with him. Kind of a la Cody Parkey when he was here during the Browns playoff run that year during COVID. But I think. Look, I just think there's a lot of young talent that gets wasted at the kicker position early on in their career. Younghoe Koo was another one that was cut early on. Rodrigo Blankenship keeps getting bounced around after a strong start in Indy. I just think the expectations for these guys are so high, and it's just a zero-sum game for them.
Yep. So moving on here, the Browns made a number of contract restructures this week for cap space.
This is I'm excited about.
So Joel Bitonio, Myles Garrett, and David Njoku all had their contracts restructured, and the Browns they joined Deshaun Watson, who we started the offseason restructuring his contract. So the Browns now have the most cap space in the entire NFL. So I guess, is this a move to right size the cap for the future? Are you, Kenny? Are you smelling desperation here for like a win now move that's going to be made here sometime soon?
I do think that it's a move for the preeminent future. I think this is if there is a player that makes our team significantly better before the trade deadline, we're going to do what we can to go out and get him. I think someone that fits that bill is maybe like an Aaron Donald, who may be on a team that's rebuilding and he's later in his career and doesn't want to be a part of that, wants to be on a win now mode. Like if someone like that came available.
Dude, if the Browns brought in Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I mean, almost similar
sure.
to the Von Miller move when the Rams won the Super Bowl that year, so a couple of years ago. So I think that's the first thing this is for. I do want to hedge a little bit, though, because we got to remember that all these contract restructures, they're interesting because you go, the Browns have all this cap room now. Sometimes these contract restructures don't work out necessarily, and it's kind of, you don't see it a whole lot, but like for instance, John Johnson III, like I think if you look up his dead cap number against the Browns next year, it's like $8 million. So while we have this free cap money that we've just restructured out, we're still paying John Johnson III. We're still paying Jadeveon Clowney, even when they're not on our roster. So you got to keep that in mind that even if this isn't a desperate win now move, it may very well be a long-term way to try to even out the numbers in the future. I think both are possible, but given where this team is at, given the expectations for this year, given the expectations for Deshaun, given the expectations for Cade York, who we just cut, I think that this team wants to pull every opportunity, lift every stone on their way here to make sure that they have done their due diligence and done everything they could to put the best team on the field, because there's no excuses this year. You have Deshaun with a full offseason. You've brought in talent at the right places, except for linebacker, which we don't care about in Cleveland. And you feel like you're a much better team.
We don't have linebackers.
You feel like you're a much better team on paper. So the AFC North is crowded, and you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to bring in, and I hesitate to say Odell Beckham because we had that here once, but you need a move like that if you're going to seriously contend, because all these other ball clubs are probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and I will say this, something that I've heard this discussion all week long, but something that everybody seems to forget is all these coaches, even up to Andrew Berry, if they don't make the playoffs this year, we're going to see a lot of turnover.
Oh, yeah.
And so to your point, I think you're probably right. I would like to say that this is just for the future and to continue building our team. But no, I mean, if we don't make the playoffs and probably make a little bit of a run in the playoffs,
somebody's getting fired.
There's going to be all these people aren't coming back, and so I think that they all know that, and so that's what part of what goes.
The only
into
scenario that happens,
and Andrew Berry's draft picks are starting to look worse and worse,
because the playmakers on this team are all John Dorsey picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think the only way that this works out, that a bunch of people don't lose their jobs at the end of the season, is if they're 12-5 and somehow miss the playoffs, because the AFC North is just so the AFC in general is just so competitive.
Yeah.
If you win 12 games and you miss out, okay, like tough luck, but I don't see it going that way, right? It's not how things happen in Cleveland. If this thing's going to go south, it's going to go south in a hurry, and it's going to go south hard.
We don't just kind of go south; we go full south.
So if you have an opportunity to prevent that, I think they'll take it.
Yeah, and then so kind of in a related sense here, the loss of Jakeem Grant. You okay over there, buddy?
Sorry, I was an itch on my ear and my headphones fell off, and I'm a disaster. I'm hungry.
So with all these contract restructures, you mentioned like win now moves. One that's popped up again with the loss of Jakeem Grant for the season is Cordero Patterson. These rumors are heating up again. How likely are they to make this move? And I will say, I want to hedge this a little bit with the fact that they did just trade for the Patriots running back Pierre Strong to bolster the running back room, but. Cordero Patterson serves that dual role of like a special teams ace and a running back as far as depth goes. So, I mean, do you think there's a chance that that's going to happen, or what do you think there?
I'll have the turkey sandwich. No, I don't put a lot of stock in the Cordero Patterson rumors. I think We'll see what Pierre Strong has. Obviously, he's not a generational talent, or he wouldn't have been let go. But we don't need a generational talent. We need somebody that can spell Nick if he gets tired or banged up in a game.
It's supposed to be Wilkins, but
yeah, I mean, he put the ball on the ground and looked bad in that last preseason game. So, but I think that was the general consensus was that Dimitri Felton and John Kelly were kind of asked during the preseason and weren't going to be able to hold it together when Chubb wasn't on the field. Yep. And they liked Wilkins, who has a decent resume to this point, but obviously when you can't successfully execute the running back quarterback exchange, that's over for you. That's a big problem.
That spells the end.
That's the whole problem. So you'll end up cut what he was. But here's the thing too. Look, anybody's guess what this offense is going to look like. I think Nick Chubb probably is going to be lucky to get 12 carries a game. Now, I know that he'll do absolutely the optimum amount.
He'll average 100 yards a game on 12 carries.
He will, because he's Nick Chubb. But if you get the ball, if you have 12 carries a game, is there a need for competence spell? Probably not a huge one. And at some point, Jerome Ford will come back. So, I think they probably will be between Pierre Strong and guys like Dimitri Felton probably get by until Jerome Ford comes back. I think Cordero is just one of those guys that, because of his resume, would require too much of that cap space, and the return's just not that great.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps up the Browns preseason, though. I mean, that's pretty much everything that's happened so far. We'll talk about it a little bit more next week when we come back here. Kenny will be solo, but we'll talk about that later. But Kenny will talk about that next week and some more of the cuts that were made in order to get us down to that 53 number to start the season. But moving on here, the Cleveland Guardians, the Guardians suck. They're 62 and 69. They're playing the Twins this week. The only chance to get back into the playoff race is to sweep them and play lights out the rest of the season, which is not going to happen. The team's been bad. The trades have been bad. Noah Syndergaard, who was like one of our only returns in the trades, got DFA'd this week. So
they were good.
They're just not that good this year. But they are young, and we do have a bright future, as always, with the way our farm system is and how they typically build the team. I mean, there are some things to look forward to. But on the downside, Terry Francona, everything kind of came out this week that it sounds like this is probably going to be his final year with the team. There's been a lot of hinting that he will retire after the season. And this dude's a legend. He did more with less than any coach I've ever seen in any sport ever.
I've been depressed about this for the last 3 days because this is and that Jerry Francona can't coach forever.
No, and he's had health problems for several years in a row now. So,
but he's been the one component of Cleveland sport. And look, we got LeBron Breath.
He's just so funny. He loves the fans. He drives around on his moped. He hangs out with the fans on East 4th.
He's been the one consistent force of good, of enjoyment in Cleveland since he's got here, combined with competence on the field, because he always puts together with, like you said, as good a team as he can with not a whole lot of resources. And this year's no different. I mean, there are a few games under 500, and it's not going to be one of the shining.
You look at their team on paper this year; it's ass.
But the team is ass. I mean, there's guys out there, especially now. There's guys out there that you have no idea who they are, or where they came from. You're like, well, where'd that guy?
Well, especially as we've gotten into the season and people have gotten hurt or people have gotten traded. Whatever.
Yeah. So
you're a casual fan, and you're completely lost when you go to a game.
It's frustrating because there is a lot of young talent here that's good, especially if you're a guy like Jose Ramirez. It's got to be difficult to swallow that you're kind of wasting your time here, your prime.
He took less money to stay here.
Yeah, and I think he's obviously a big Francona guy, so I hate to see if Francona leaves, if he were to waive that no trade clause.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's just not our year. I mean, it could be worse because they could be going through a full rebuild and be 33 and 90 right now.
No, and I say that Guardians suck with all due respect.
With all due respect, it doesn't mean you can just say whatever you want.
No, but I just mean it's not like I hate the Guardians or anything. I love the Guardians, and we talked about it earlier in the season. The Guardians every once in a while do have that season where it's just not their. They don't typically have one of the best rosters in the MLB, but probably a little bit more than 50% of the time they're going to make the playoffs. Every once in a while they don't, and this is a year that they don't, and that's fine, and we're going to keep building, and probably next year they'll be back at the top of the AL Central that's hot garbage and maybe win it again and go to the playoffs. So.
Can you imagine how bad it feels, though, to be a player that gets traded to Cleveland? You're like, great, now I'm not getting paid for at least another 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fun.
I mean, these guys are making pennies on the dollar compared to their peers. Look, here's the sad thing about Terry Francona, and if he does end up retiring this year, is can you imagine what Terry Francona would have been on a team with unlimited resources?
Like if he would have stayed in Boston his entire career?
Yeah, I mean, and he did good things in Boston, right? So
the problem there was their expectations were too high. He kept winning, but he still wasn't winning enough.
Well, Boston's the problem, so they're the worst. The problem with Boston is they get so wrapped into the Patriots and the expectation of
we got to win a Super Bowl
of being
That's
good.
Starting to come back down to earth.
You win a championship every year.
Yeah.
It's just not the reality. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine a guy like Francona with the talent he has and the mind that he has, and just the love for the game that he has with a team with resources like. He's going to go down as one of the greatest ever anyway, just because he's had a great career. But man, what could have been?
Yeah. Moving on here, though, the Cleveland Cavaliers, nothing going on, so we'll pass them up. Did you have something for them?
Not so much Cleveland Cavs related. I don't even know if you have this in here, but the Bronny news.
That would be non-Cleveland news, but
well,
sure, that's up next. So we'll kick off the non-Cleveland news with a Bronny James update. I guess it's kind of Cleveland because LeBron played for Cleveland once.
And Cleveland Clinic did all this heart research and stuff.
That's fair.
It's like semi-Cleveland.
So a Bronny James update here.
Bronny James update. So we talked about he went into full cardiac arrest a couple weeks ago, and was the last update we really had just was that he was doing better. And then
he was at home resting.
The weekend, it came out that he had a congenital heart defect that looks like they're going to be able to do surgery on to correct in its entirety, which is good. Which is just that's kind of what I said when it happened was. Odd,
it has to be something nobody knows.
Odd for a kid that has so many advantages in life, and the trainers, and the time that he has in a gym in his house, and all this stuff, that he would have something go wrong with his heart like that, unless it was a congenital birth defect. Yeah. So it ended up that's what it was, and hopefully, they'll be able to fix that. I don't know what a timeline looks like for a recovery with that. I mean, granted, he's young and he's healthy and strong, so hopefully he can get back to being a great athlete sooner than later. But I don't know. I mean, is this something that you kind of take stock of your kid's life at this point, and you go, playing in the NBA maybe isn't all that important.
If you don't want to. I mean, I guess in the end, it's up to Bronny James, though. It's whatever he wants to do.
I guess. But I think that's positive news that they're going to be able to operate. They're going to be able to correct the issue. Yeah. And he should make a full recovery.
Yep. All good things. Next up here, Will Levis, your boy.
My dude.
Signed a lifetime deal with Hellmann's.
Is he even the starting quarterback?
No, he's not. He's really not. Ryan Tannehill's the starting quarterback in Tennessee, but signed a lifetime deal with Hellmann's, and in the commercial to kind of announce things, put the Hellmann's in his coffee and drank it.
I did hear that
I can't stand he's Will Levis just for this.
I did hear that he was exasperated about this whole thing. He's just like, I just wish I never said anything. he's like, that's what I'm known for now. I'm like, it's not.
You're mayonnaise coffee guy.
I never intended it to be that way. It was kind of like a funny, in passing joke. And then, here I am.
Well,
now I'm Hellmann's guy.
You shouldn't do disgusting things, and then you won't be known for disgusting things. In other quarterback news, Sam Darnold beats Trey Lance for QB2 in San Francisco. Trey Lance gets moved to Dallas, and you have down here that Miami made out in this deal. So explain that to everybody.
Well, they ended up with out of those picks they got, because I think it was 3 picks that Miami
for a guy that gets traded
getting were turned into Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Bradley Chubb.
They traded one of the picks for.
There might have been a third. There might have been a fourth person even actually that they ended up with out of that. But and at the end of the day, San Francisco sitting there with Sam Darnold as a backup. And Trey Lance being in Dallas. So yeah, Miami made out in that deal for sure. But. Look, I don't know what the future is for Trey Lance. They asked Jerry Jones about what that signals to his team or his quarterback, and he said, "I didn't really think about it." Which is kind of like a classic Jerry Jones answer.
I don't know.
But it's kind of odd because you bring in a younger, faster, healthier Dak Prescott. That.
Not to mention you got Cooper Rush sitting on the bench. So
and you got Cooper Rush out there. I'm a big Cooper Rush fan.
Yeah,
because his name kind of sounds like a band.
It's just an odd situation down there in Dallas, and it kind of speaks to are you Are you confident in Dak? Are you confident in Cooper Rush if Dak goes down? What is that saying about all the quarterback room that you have?
And I just think that the Dallas Cowboys are so overrated.
Oh, every year.
I mean,
They were finally good for like a year last year.
They got some good pieces there now because I guess like CD Lamb is good and that, but God, they're just so overrated and they're just such a dysfunctional mess.
Speaking of overrated,
in the front office.
Speaking of overrated, I do have one more quarterback note. The city of Schittsburg is completely off their rockers with all this Kenny Pickett talk right now.
Dude, have you heard this? These Yinzers talking about this?
Oh my God, they think he's the second coming.
They think he's the second coming. They think he's literally going.
Him and his two gloves.
They're going Tommy two gloves. They're going to win the AFC North. It's not going to be close. Look, I know that Mike Tomlin is there. I know just like Terry Francona, he fields a hell of a team every year.
And they're probably going to be above 500.
They probably will be 500, but God, man. I mean, if Kenny Pickett really is good, like I'm going to punch myself in the face.
You heard it here first.
100 times.
Oh, man.
100 times on
mark
camera.
That. Episode 36 at about the... we're approximately...
to be fair, I did say last year I think Kenny Pickett is better than we think he is, but I don't think he's good.
Yeah,
so
we're at about the 50-minute mark, 50 to 51 minutes. So mark that. Kenny said he will punch himself in the face 100 times if Kenny Pickett is good.
He's so ass.
His two gloves are so stupid, too.
And that team is just, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I hate Pittsburgh.
Yeah, everybody does.
But he is ass.
Next up, Josh Johnson finally signs with the Raiders. He got a similar deal to Saquon and Zeke. And what does this mean for Nick Chubb going forward?
It means he's going to get a 1-year deal for $8 million next year.
Yeah, so it's just something interesting to keep an eye on. Everybody likes to talk about how Nick Chubb's going to retire a Brown. Listen, I got news for you, and it's going to feel bad. He's not. He's not going to retire a Cleveland Brown. As much as I would love him to, Nick Chubb is the best football player. You talked about Anthony Schwartz being the worst football player you've ever seen.
Nick Chubb's on the opposite paradigm.
Nick Chubb is the best football player I've seen in my lifetime, and I want him to stay with the Browns forever, but it's probably not going to happen.
Hey, fellas, can I interject here?
Yes.
Are you talking about Josh Jacobs?
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Copy that.
Yeah, this is why we have the Bone Man over there. He's our
keeping us honest.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs. There was a typo there. Yeah, we'll blame it on autocorrect.
What I find interesting about these running back deals is that they both have neglected to be franchise tagged to take a deal that is essentially the same as the franchise tag.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's so that they can be franchise tagged again next year or what. Like, I'm not sure what the thinking is here. But I don't know. Either way, just the lack of importance that running backs have apparently become in the NFL is still just baffling to me. But
yeah, I don't know. And speaking of running backs, the whole situation is crazy. But speaking of running backs, Jonathan Taylor may be on the move as well. We will find that out tomorrow. It seems like everything is happening the day after we're recording this podcast.
And this is what I love about the Jonathan Taylor trade is Jonathan Taylor was given permission to seek a trade, and what the Colts want in return is a first rounder.
But you're not going to give him first round money.
You can't say on one hand we're not going to pay you like a top talent, but if we trade
top talent back.
Yeah, we expect it in return for a trade for you. What?
The craziest part is that's what Jonathan Taylor and his agent actually called them out for this.
Like, you're high
before he was given permission to seek a trade, and now that he's given permission to seek a trade, they're doing exactly what him and his agent said they were going to do. So it's just wild. They're just basically saying, yeah, you're right. We are going to leverage that part of it and the fact that you're a great player, but we're never going to pay you like a great player because we don't have to.
Disaster.
Yeah. So next up here, again, more news that we will know for sure tomorrow, and probably give another update on next week. But Anthony Kendall,
our dude,
Baldwin Wallace alum, who we had on the show earlier in the offseason here, still standing with the Titans the day before final cuts. So we will find out if he makes the team.
Regardless, I mean, to make it to the end of the cuts as an undrafted free agent, coming out of a
Division III school.
Hell of an effort, kid.
Yeah, so what a story if he does make the team. And even if he doesn't, the fact that he made it to the final day of cuts, either way,
and I think that
is phenomenal.
That probably gets you to the point where you're like, I can play in this league. I just got to find the right place.
Yep, exactly. So next up here, Green Bay and New England had their game suspended due to an injury to Isaiah Bolden. And then the following week, the last week of preseason, Miami and Jacksonville had their game suspended as well due to an injury to Dawood Davis. So it kind of begs the question, though, if an injury is gruesome enough, does it warrant ending the game or postponing the game? We kind of came off the Damar Hamlin thing last year, right? And it kind of set a precedent. But I'm wondering, is this going to become kind of the norm if you see some of these injuries where guys are getting carted off? And if that's going to bleed over into the regular season, or if we're seeing an abundance of caution right now because it's the preseason. I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Agreed. I mean, I think there was a time in all of our lives where the NFL was going to do everything it could to protect the shield, and at that point, it meant protecting investment from advertisers, which meant the game must go on.
Yeah.
I think the Damar Hamlin injury last year
opened everyone's eyes to that
changed a lot of people's minds on how these things should happen. And there wasn't a person watching that game at home in the stands.
I was like, man, I really want to see the rest of this
or on
game.
TV that was like, they probably should keep playing. So, look, I didn't see either of these injuries that happened during the preseason, but the fact that the NFL said, hey, look, it's the preseason, we're just not even going to finish the game. It seems to me that there is some kind of precedent set now that says, hey, player safety is that important that if something, I mean, you go back to like the Alex Smith injury, when his leg just basically was torn off his body.
Yep.
Will we see this more in the future where they're going to just, call the game as is, the winner's the winner, the loser's the loser, or we'll call it a tie, or we'll postpone it until tomorrow.
A lot of questions there, because it brings into like, how do they're going to have to build this into the rules. Like, how do they determine something like that? Like, what's the protocol if a game gets called due to injury?
But I think that the point is that like these injuries are so, if they're gruesome enough, like people don't want to see that as much as with the curiosity, and all of us wants to be like, yeah, show me that broken leg. Like people watch these games. The reality is people watch these games with their kids.
Yeah.
This is a family game. The NFL's done a ton in stadiums to try and promote.
They're going more and more that direction too. Yeah.
We don't want the loud, obnoxious beer drinking fan. We want, dad and 4 kids to come with mom to the game. I think that there's a very real possibility that we're going to see more and more of this because this game is bigger, faster, and stronger than it ever has been, which means things are going to continue to happen like that. I mean, again, Alex Smith, Ryan Shazier, when these things happen, these ones feel different.
Yeah, and we're not saying we're advocating for just postponing every game where somebody gets a concussion or somebody gets hurt. No,
there's going to be dudes hurt in every game.
You mentioned some of the names: Ryan Shazier, Alex Smith, Damar Hamlin. Those are clearly on another level.
Like everybody watching that was like, wow.
And I remember the Ryan Shazier one. That's actually the one that sticks with me the most. I mean, Damar Hamlin was devastating, but Ryan Shazier sticks with me the most because I was glued to that game when it happened, and I was just like, oh. And I think it hits a little bit closer to home just because he's an Ohio State guy and those types of things. We rooted for him for years before he made it to the NFL.
When it's just that,
it was just, I mean, yeah, I didn't want to watch the rest of that.
That kind of thing shouldn't happen to these guys, right? Like that's not, we like football. We like that they tackle each other and they hit each other and they try to, hurt each other, so to speak. But no one actually wants to see anybody get killed or maimed for the rest of their life. Ryan Shazier, that kid's whole life.
It took him however many years just to be able to walk again.
Ruined.
Yeah.
And we watched it all happen in real time. So, yeah, I think there's very clearly going to be more and more discussions and more examples of, hey, is this worth it to continue? What the players union decides as far as what the rule should be and what Goodell decides is what the rule should be will be interesting. But I think it's a reality that we're going to have to live with now because not that I'm advocating that they should have just kept playing those games. Look, life's more important than football, but it stuck out in the preseason that they went ahead and suspended those games, given the proximity to the Damar Hamlin injury.
Yeah, probably the right thing to do. I think we'll see more of it going forward, but we'll see how that shakes out. Next up here, in baseball, Ohtani likely going to have to give up pitching. Shut down for the year after experiencing elbow soreness. Turns out he's got, and you wrote in here, an Uber Jimmy John, which I think translates in Kenny speak to he has a UCL injury and may require Tommy John surgery.
That's correct.
So an Uber Jimmy John for Ohtani there. But that's too bad because it really is an awesome thing to watch him at, especially at the pro level, be able to just dominate literally every facet of the game.
Who was the last guy? I mean, Babe Ruth?
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth was the last guy.
And Ohtani's doing it he's far more dominant than Babe Ruth was.
And Babe Ruth had the same problem. Eventually, he couldn't pitch anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, he just had to hit the ball. And
eventually, he just hit dingers.
I think that's probably next on Shohei's list because Tommy John, Jimmy John, never good.
Yeah, not good.
And, I mean, this guy's just been such a star. And what's unfortunate is the MLB is just such shit at marketing their players. I mean, if you are like plugged into the sports world, there's so many people that have missed what Shohei Ohtani has done in the last couple of seasons that, God, it's so impressive.
I feel like I do watch a lot of sports, and I still don't see it. Like, right. We're in Cleveland, and we don't hear very much about him.
Right. But, like...
At least not as much about him as I should, knowing he's like the best player the MLB has.
Johnny Manziel had a Snickers commercial.
Yeah. Like, seriously. But, yeah, so... Uber Jimmy John for Shohei Ohtani.
Feels bad.
Yeah. Next up, a pair of unfortunate deaths in the celebrity world that we're going to announce here.
Awful.
In case you haven't heard, former WWE champion Bray Wyatt, whose real name was Wyndham Rotunda, passed away at 36. One of the most creative minds in all of sports entertainment, always put on a good show. So it turns out he already had some heart issues. And then he got COVID earlier this year that really exacerbated some of those issues, and he ended up having a massive heart attack this past week that he did not survive. I know that we're kind of both closet WWE fans. Not really closet. I mean, I'll tell anybody.
I'm out.
Wrestling's pretty cool.
I don't watch as much as I do when I was a child. But
I just don't have time to anymore. But wrestling's still pretty cool. Yeah, like I would love to get WrestleMania every year.
How many nights is wrestling on a week now?
Like 7.
You guys, like every night of the week, you got WWE. You got Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown,
NXT, AEW. AEW is not WWE, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but you can watch wrestling like literally every night of the week now.
Yeah.
TNA still out there somewhere, and you still got your local promotions. But anyway, this is devastating news. Bray Wyatt, it really was one of the few people left in WWE that conveyed a character so well.
Just crafted the best stories.
There's not. When people think of the nostalgia of wrestling and the guys that they like, and Jake the Snake and Undertaker and Mr. Perfect, like they loved the characters. $1 Million Man, they loved the characters these guys played, and Bray Wyatt could play a character.
Oh yeah.
He was creepy. He was crazy. He had a great entrance. He had some really interesting accomplices in some stables and tag teams. Just a joy to get the chance to watch. Because wrestling has become so watered down in recent years that these guys just don't exist anymore. So when one shows up now that really catches your eye like that, I mean, it's so rare.
Well, especially because you talk about it being watered down. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they are PG now.
Sure.
And you can't have a real adult story a lot of the time.
And he was one of the guys that pushed that.
He was able to push that envelope, but keep it PG. And not do any of the kind of more obnoxious things, I would say, that made wrestling so great back in the day. Instead, he was able to craft such a great story, and he was such a creepy story that he was able to really push that.
He was one of the few guys really left too that had great mic skills.
Oh yeah. Anytime he got on the mic, you listened. It was not since probably CM Punk's break the internet
pipe bomb.
His pipe bomb, yeah. Have I been like glued to the TV listening to somebody on the mic in the WWE?
And CM Punk just went and totally ruined that for himself now with all his antics. But Bray Wyatt, just terrible news. Feel really bad about it. Huge loss for all of us, and especially for the WWE.
Yep. So thoughts and prayers with his family.
36, man.
He's definitely going to be missed.
That is young.
And then next up, I said we have 2. So legendary Price is Right host Bob Barker died this week. 99 years old.
That is old.
Dude had a fantastic run. But I got to say this, man. Got as close to $1 as possible without going over. Absolute legend.
He sure did.
So, R.I.P. Bob Barker.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have fond memories of watching Price is Right, like on a day that I stayed home.
Price is wrong, bitch.
On a day that I stayed home from school, either because it was like snow day or I was sick. Somehow the Price is Right always ended up on.
Yeah,
like,
it did. Yeah, it's still that way.
Classic show, God, you gotta think like Bob Barker did that. He hosted TV shows for I think like 50 years. Not Price is Right for that long, but he hosted other shows. And can you imagine Bob Barker like in the 1960s with all of the women around? Like that guy probably was such a dog.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
R.I.P. Bob Barker.
Yep. So you know what that takes us to? That's the end of the Burning River Rundown.
That's the end of the Burning River Rundown. Thank God.
And it takes us to the Burning River Sportscast Hot Take Hotline. So don't forget to call and leave your hot takes on the Hot Take Hotline. Remember, these are hot takes. I want to hear why Cade York has sucked so bad. I want to hear a rant why Ronnie Hickman should still be on the team. I want to hear why you think the preseason matters at all. And I want to know why so many people actually believe the earth is flat.
Because it is.
We want hot takes.
We want hot takes. We want hot takes.
We want hot takes. Yeah. 330-227-8080.
330-227-8080.
330-227-8080. Call now. Operators are not standing by. It's just an answering machine.
Just an answering machine.
But you know what time it is. Let's take a quick revenue break and then get back here to preview the Browns season. Towpath Distillery. Towpath Distillery, an award-winning craft distillery located in Akron, Ohio. Towpath Distillery focuses on high-quality spirits carefully made in small batches. Towpath's lineup includes an ultra-smooth, award-winning premium vodka, a small batch silver rum made from the highest-grade molasses, an American craft gin made from 9 botanicals, and a blended straight bourbon made from corn and rye. Towpath Distillery, now available locally and in 44 states. Visit towpath-distillery.com to place your order online or find an OHLQ retailer near you. Towpath Distillery, handcrafted, award-winning, small batch, local, and family-owned. All right, so that takes us to the Browns season preview. Woo! No, Zach's nodding. He's nodding back there.
I thought he was doing the
No. All right. So this is going to be an open discussion here with me and the boys. We're just going to talk. We'll start with the offense here. What do you guys think for the Cleveland Browns offense this season? What are your expectations? Are there any names that stand out that you think are, we should be paying attention to? Just give me your takes. What do you think?
What were your takes?
Oh, you're coming back at me.
Yo.
Well, here's the deal. So earlier in the offseason here, I predicted we were going to be 10-7, pushing for a wild card spot. The only reason I think we're 10-7 and not better is because the AFC North is just so damn good. I think we're actually a better than 10-7 team. I think we're much improved from last year. I think Deshaun Watson is going to look like the Deshaun Watson of old. I know that you're still skeptical, but I'm there. I think Deshaun Watson's going to have a big season.
Healthy skepticism.
It's fair. I'm not knocking you for it. I'm just saying that's where you're at. I'm over here. I think he's gonna be back to the Deshaun Watson that threw for 4,800 yards and however many touchdowns. And I think our offense is going to put up points this year. I think that as a fan base, we undervalue how much Marquise Goodwin is going to do for us as well. I think Cedric Tillman was a steal. I really like what I've seen from him so far, and I do understand it is mostly against backups, but I really like Cedric Tillman. And then that's just to go along with the weapons that we already all know about with Njoku. The offense, we'll start with the offensive line. The whole offensive line is fantastic. But then weapons as far as athletes, you got Njoku, Chubb, you got Cooper, you got who am I missing?
So your take is just naming names. Okay.
Thank you. I said why I think they're going to be good. I hate my co-host sometimes. Like sometimes I just wish I could punch him right in the dick.
Look, here's the thing. That offensive line is very good. I think it'll be interesting to see if they can stay healthy. I think injuries have decimated that unit over the last couple of years. So I think that's number one to look for is how healthy does that offensive line stay all year long.
Very fair.
I think the same thing actually about the receiving room because I think that together they make a pretty nice unit. I think that if one of those names falls out, if Amari Cooper gets dinged up for a few weeks, it could be tough to find that replacement of production.
DPJ's looked good though.
We haven't seen a whole lot of DPJ in the preseason. I think that he continues to get better and better every year. I also think his ceiling is a little limited. Not that I don't like DPJ, I just don't think he's. Do you think he's not the same caliber receiver that you would want in a starting number one?
Do you think we're building him up a little bit because we've had the last few years of Odell Beckham went south and like all these receivers that have come through and not worked out?
Well, yeah, like show me his 1,000-yard season. Show me his 1,000-yard season. Which isn't a stretch in the NFL anymore. It's 60 yards a game? Can you catch for 60 yards a game?
It's really not. I mean, you have like two big games.
Justin Jefferson had like 1,900 yards last year. Show me your 1,000-yard season. So that worries me a little bit too. I'm not sure about Marquise Goodwin because I'm scared to death about this blood clot stuff. I
didn't even mention Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore I think is going to be the leading receiver this year. So.
I do think Elijah Moore is an interesting piece that they've added that is going to be incredibly productive this year. Again, small body, small frame. I worry about his durability when he's utilized heavily. So that's another thing I'm keeping an eye on. And then the other thing is we've heard all offseason that this offense looks completely different. We've heard it from Deshaun. We've heard it from Stefanski. We've heard it from the defense. This offense looks nothing like any offense the Cleveland Browns have ever run, which begs the question, what does this offense look like? So I'm a bit concerned that when the strength of your team is that offensive line and an all-time generational talent at running back, we are just arbitrarily deciding we're going to let Deshaun Watson air it out 50 times a game and see what happens. So those are my concerns about the offense. That being said, I do think that they have the opportunity, the chance to be prolific. But I've got some serious concerns. Like, do they stay healthy? All these guys, and is the strategy the right one? Because I think we've gotten used to the Kevin Stefanski 3 tight end sets and zone running game, which is worked at times and not worked at others. I think it's been exacerbated by bad calls and poor personnel decisions more than anything. But if you have a brand new offense, like, what does that look like, and how long does that take to really get where you want it to be in terms of a production unit for the year? So those are my concerns. Can they be great? Maybe, but I definitely think that it's going to be harder than people think it is. This offense.
Yeah. What about you, Bone Man? I know I don't want to leave you out of this discussion. I want your thoughts here. Do you got any hot takes on the offense this year?
Well, I was kind of thinking about this earlier, just if the offense does start slow, as Kenny's kind of alluding to, I think our defense is going to keep us in games. And I know this is the offense take, but
I was going to say that's a hot take. Our defense is going to be so good, our offense doesn't even have to play. But go on.
Well, that's not it. But yeah, if the offense is, I'm kind of saying that I think maybe they do start slow and. Deshaun Watson's throwing the ball down the field 100 times, and hopefully that opens up a lot of lanes for Nick Chubb.
50 times a game. Bone Man's going with 100 times a game. This is going to be this is going to be an exciting offense.
That would be an offense we've never seen before.
So do you think
Dustin Hopkins is the truth? He's going to win us every game.
Nice.
Bone.
Delivering
the hottest takes.
Bone's offensive take was offense going to start slow, defense going to be the best, and our special teams is going to be phenomenal. That's the offensive take.
Oh my God.
Wow. We ran the gamut there.
The guy hasn't even signed a contract yet, and he's going to lead the offense.
He's the truth. No, I love it. I love it, though. So you sound, regardless of how you think the offense is going to start, it sounds like you're confident, though. You think we're going to have a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I on paper, of course, but I'm also a very optimistic Browns fan. So,
nice. We got the whole spectrum here. Kenny is a very pessimistic Browns fan. He always picks us to lose. I'm somewhere in the middle, I like to think, and we got Bone Man over there who just thinks we're going to win every game.
It's not even that I'm pessimistic. It's that if you have a glass and it's half full of water, and you say the glass is half full, and Zach says the glass is half empty, I'd say there's water in the glass. You can't dispute that. That's all I am.
I bet I could dispute that, because what if I'm drinking coffee? What if it's vodka? Vodka's also clear.
Okay, well, I would just call it what it is. That's what I'm saying. You're missing the whole point of the metaphor.
Well, I just hate you, so. No, so that was the offensive take. We'll move on to defense here. I mean, I'm kind of with you, Bone Man. I like the defense. I like the additions that we've made. I even like some of the subtractions we've made as far as Clowney. Like I was at the point where I didn't really care about Clowney anymore. Like, he had a lot of hype, and he did disrupt the backfield while he was here. But I mean, he couldn't stay healthy last year. It just didn't. It seemed like it had run its course. So I was glad they got rid of him. And yeah, I mean, I like the defense. I think that we've got a lot of depth now where we didn't before.
Speaking of Clowney, he went and signed with the Ravens. What an asshole!
Great. So we got Beckham and Clowney over there with the Ravens.
Yeah, my mind's not working quick enough. What do they call it in the Star Wars? It was
the Evil Empire.
The Evil Empire.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where you were going with
Bone
that.
Bone got me.
But yeah, no, I just think that the defense is much improved. I mean, how can you not be? We were calling for Joe Woods to be fired after like week 2 last year, and it took him until like the end of the season
this year.
Yeah. So, no. So it was. I think the defense is much improved. We've got a lot of depth. Pretty much across the board except linebacker. We have no linebackers. So I think the defense. To your point, Bone Man, I think they'll keep us in these games. So
I think it'll be a big year for the defensive backs. D line is stout, put a lot of pressure on the QB, and hopefully force some turnovers.
I hope Denzel Ward can stay on the field, because a lot of people I saw were just tearing him up.
Well, he's already off the field because.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Concussed.
A lot of people were tearing him up after the concussion this past week, and people are so heartless. Like, they're just all calling him hospital ward. And I'm like, guys,
wow,
that's a person out there. He has a concussion.
Hospital
and you guys are
ward.
Yeah, that's the nickname running around the socials this week is hospital
wow.
ward. They say he can't stay on the field and we need to get rid of him. Like that's the overwhelming majority of the comments that I saw this week.
I love Denzel, but I'm actually not opposed to that if you can get good capital back. That being said, he's a great defensive back, and hopefully he can get on the field.
Yeah.
Look, I think that the defense is the strength of this team, but like I said earlier, I just think it's going to take a while for them to gel. So I just hope the fans don't get discouraged early on when they are
don't start calling for Jim Schwartz being fired.
When they're working towards getting better and gelling as a unit, and then at some point, probably all of these linebackers are going to get hurt, and they're going to have to rotate them in with some newer, younger guys that probably just got cut today, and they'll be learning the defense all over again. So at some point, there's going to be hard times for this defense, and hopefully Jim Schwartz and his Jim Shorts can keep them together, just like a good old Dusty Rhodes monologue.
Yeah, and I do say that the Browns fans will be calling for his job in week 2, and just because the calls for Joe Woods' job were absolutely warranted. Oh my gosh, that was the worst defense I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, here's the thing: the team was so bad last year on defense that they don't have anywhere else to go. So even if this team doesn't meet expectations this year, they can't possibly look worse than they did last year.
Don't say that.
It would be like last year was like if Andrew Sandeo played every position on defense. Like that's.
Do you guys remember when the free safety would just disappear at the top of the screen?
Oh yeah, that was the best. Good time.
That was Jabril Peppers. He was in Lake Erie. Who was the defensive coordinator then? Who was it?
Was that Ray Horton?
Ray Horton?
Yeah.
What a great defense. 10 against 11.
Good times. Good times. What's your strategy? Let's play this free safety 27 yards back. All right. Well, that should work out. Bold strategy. Let's see if it works out for him, Cotton. No, but that takes us finally to the special teams here. And this is actually the part that I'm most concerned about, and I think just about everybody in Cleveland is. Even besides Cade York, who looked terrible and is now off the team, the entire special teams unit has looked mediocre at best through
besides
the season.
Bajorquez.
besides Jorquez, he's got a cannon for a leg, and he boots the ball inside the 20 almost every time.
Yeah,
So
he's the best punter.
but yeah, I mean, I'm really concerned. We mentioned it earlier in the show. Bubba Ventrone was brought in and is supposed to be this great up and coming special teams coordinator. And so far, what do we got? We got he took Cade York and made him worse.
Yeah, I mean, if the state of today's special teams unit is any kind of reflection of what your leadership is in that room, like that place is on fire right now. I mean, this is the biggest, for by and large, the offseason outside of Perry and Winfrey getting himself crazy was pretty quiet. I mean, there was a lot of positives about the Browns, a lot of positives about what happened out of the Greenbrier. Camp seemed to go well. The draft was what exceeded people's expectations based on the players they were to get with Tillman and that. So there's been a lot of good, a lot of positive.
Even with
vibes.
the injury issues, not a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, people have been relatively healthy throughout camp and all these things. The one really negative is the fact that you just blew up a whole position. Yeah. I mean, there's 32 of those guys that play in the NFL. There's a lot of defensive tackles in the NFL. There's a lot of wide receivers in the NFL. There's 32 kickers in the NFL. And we just literally lit one on fire. We were like, Burning River. So... like that scares the hell out of me. So I think this is
maybe Cade York heard my rant and I put too much pressure on him.
I mean, this is the unit to watch right now, because I think that this unit could get burned for a couple of touchdowns early on in the season, on punt returns or kick returns, and we could be having a whole different discussion about the skill position players inside of this group. So hopefully Dustin Hopkins, the white D-Hop, can come in and kind of stabilize things for us.
And I talked about some things that people were saying on the socials this week, right? That's another one is I saw multiple people saying I prefer.
I definitely don't prefer. I mean, that dude was absolute ass trash.
I never prefer to anybody because he's what'd you call him, ass trash?
Absolute ass trash.
Yeah, he's that.
Yeah, but I mean, probably one of the worst coaches ever made. He is to coaching what Anthony Schwartz is to playing football. Both of them should just dig a hole and not stop digging. So that's how I feel about that.
All right.
But no, seriously, I have real concern about Bubba Ventrone at this point, because I think that is a dereliction of leadership, that room fell apart to the point where Cade York, who a year ago was a 4th-round draft pick,
after his first game was a hero.
Can't kick a field goal.
Like, we damn near carried him off the field last year.
Yeah, I mean... look, that worries me. So, very concerned about that.
Bone, thoughts?
Well, as far as the kicking room goes, I was thinking, I feel like Cade all last year was missing kicks, whether it was extra points or timely, misses in the fourth quarter. So you look at the locker room and you have to build confidence in your team. I think they had to make a move. Whether that was Bubba Ventrone's poor coaching this year or Prefer last year, but you got an entire squad, looking at you to make kicks, and he wasn't doing it.
Yeah, I mean, when your only job is to make kicks and you don't make kicks, that's a problem. And to Kenny's point earlier in the show, and it's not just Browns fans, it's just the world we live in now. Instant gratification is a thing, and everything needs to be perfect all the time, or else it's a problem. You don't want to be a part of the problem.
You want to be the whole problem.
And Cade York was the whole problem, so he's cut now. But
I mean, think about this. There was a time in this sport where people kicked the ball without a shoe on.
I was just looking at those stories. Like, whatever happened to those guys?
like you telling me that Cade York wasn't more accurate than some of those guys
in the
wintertime with their toe?
Bring out the square.
Have you seen the stories
shoe
on those guys and like how big their feet swelled up because they were just kicking footballs?
Concrete balls because it was 30 degrees outside.
What a bunch of freaking weirdos.
Yeah.
Like, did they forget that we invented shoes?
Apparently. I don't know.
I digress. Anyways, let's revisit our record predictions.
Before we do that, I just wanted to you have the three phases of the game in here. I do want to throw a fourth bullet point,
coaching,
which is coaching.
Oh, I am not confident in coaching because we still have Stefanski, and we kind of went through the same offseason that we went through last year, where everything was on fire, right? The year before, right? It was. There's a lot of craziness going on, and he comes in and he's, we're going to fix everything. We're going to get it going. Everything's going to be great. And, what happened last year?
Oh, we were ass trash.
we were ass trash. Baker Mayfield was god awful. The whole team was god awful. The defense was awful. The special teams were awful. And the entire season, all we got was Kevin Stefanski saying how we're gonna get it figured out.
We're gonna get it figured out,
and we never did.
That's on me.
And so many things have been on Kevin Stefanski by now. I can't even believe that we could see his eyes anymore, because dude's buried in a pile of his own shit. But no, I mean, seriously though, I'm very concerned about Kevin Stefanski, and I would say at this point, we're literally to the point where there's no excuses. I mean, if you can't win at this juncture, you need to be gone.
Can I tell you that's what scares me the most? If this team does go 5-12 this year, what do?
We start over.
But what's the right way to build it then?
Not again.
I don't know, man. I don't want to think about going 5-12.
I'm out of ideas. Like,
if we go 5-12, we literally can't win here.
Like
because
we let Hugh Jackson coach here for 3 years. Like, we've tried everything.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
But no, to your point, I think like this is if there hasn't been a notice in Kevin Stefanski's mailbox every week of the offseason, it says like, hey, Kevin, remember, this is the year.
Oh, and if anybody's denying that this is the year where it's like put up or shut up for Kevin Stefanski, because I know there's still the people out there that think like, no, we're going to continue with Kevin Stefanski no matter what. Like, do you think that's why they brought in Bubba Ventrone? Do you think that's why they brought in Jim Schwartz? Do you think that's why they made all these moves, was just so that they could say, yeah, we're going to keep kicking the can down the road with Kevin Stefanski? No.
At some point, you have to go from handsome to competent, and this has to be his year.
We did ask last year, is he too handsome to fire?
Here's my thing. Bengals, Steelers, Titans, Baltimore in the first 4 weeks. Kevin Stefanski could be a free agent after 4 weeks because that's when the bye comes. That's just a brutal way, regardless of who your coach. Bill Parcells could be your coach.
I mean, if they start 0-4, I would not be surprised.
One and
Kevin
3
Stefanski
even
wasn't here.
If you lose all 3 of those division games,
that's a rough.
And you start 1-3, and you just look listless.
Bone, what do you think it would take for Kevin Stefanski to be out?
I think it would have to be 0-4.
I think 0-4. I think 0-4 is the only way. As much as I say it's put up or shut up time for Kevin Stefanski, I think 0-4 is the only way that mid-season he would be fired.
Did you say 3 of the top 4 are division games?
Yes.
Bengals, Steelers, Titans, Ravens.
One of those wins, it has to be a division win.
But your bye is after that too. So if you start 1-3 and people start looking around the locker room, pointing fingers,
yeah,
I don't see how he survives that. So look, I don't want to be like, I feel like I am all of a sudden Debbie Downer on this whole podcast, but
you always are. That's your role.
I love the Browns.
That's
the Browns are like my favorite thing in the world. Like,
you could have fooled me.
Like if I had to rank my wife and the Browns and my kids and like my favorite food, like I would have a hard time placing those. But that's why it's so damn frustrating to watch.
I wonder if Christine is listening to this podcast and she's like, dang, he just talked for an entire hour and a half about how the Browns just let him down and piss him off, and he's telling me that he has trouble ranking me when it comes to me and the Browns.
All right, okay, I'm kidding in jest, but
sure.
but seriously, like that's why it's so damn frustrating, because you do care so much about this team, and it's kind of stupid. Like, why do we care so much about a football team? But I do, and I want nothing more than this Browns team to be good. I want Kevin Stefanski to take this team to the playoffs. I want Coach of the Year Kevin Stefanski that we had during COVID to show up, keep this crew together, and get players playing and moving in the right direction, because I want them to be 12-5 and make the playoffs and win the damn division. I just have so little faith in it at this point.
Fair. And now that we've talked long enough for Kenny to put himself squarely in the doghouse, let's revisit the record predictions real quick that we made earlier in the offseason. Kenny, you had us at
6-11.
And I had us at 10-7. Bone, you weren't with us at that point yet. We had our former.
He's no longer with us.
He didn't die. He's just no longer with the show. But we had the Big Seal on the board at that point. And now that Bone's in here, Bone, what is your record prediction for the Browns this year?
All right, as I said, I'm the most optimistic Browns fan. Sometimes unrealistic.
Nice. I like where this is going.
I think we have to go to 11-6.
11-6.
The AFC is just stacked. I think there's going to be tiebreakers. I don't see us winning the division, but we're going to be in a wild card, and I think we're going to need 11 wins to do it.
Nice.
When you say you don't see us winning the division, though, and you know that we paid $230 million in guaranteed money to Deshaun Watson, doesn't that
No.
Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson continue to scare me.
Lamar Jackson just got paid. Joe Burrow's going to get paid. By the time Joe Burrow gets paid, Deshaun Watson's not even going to be in the top 10 for quarterback contracts anymore.
Although I'll say this, I think we will beat Cincinnati probably twice. For some reason or another, we beat Cincinnati every year, and yet they go on to beat every team we lose to.
Remember, that was the Baker years. Baker had their number.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, I'm predicting them to win week 1. Spoiler alert. But anyways, so you were 7 and
6-11.
6-11. I was 10-7. Bone Man's going 11-6. Bone, yours is in stone since this is your first prediction. Kenny, since with everything that happened in the preseason, everything leading up to the season, do you want to amend yours at all? One last chance before the season starts.
I do. I like a lot of the young talent that I saw on this roster. I think on the practice squad, there's going to be guys that are going to get the call up this year due to injury or otherwise. And I think that's worth at least one more win, 7-10.
I thought we were going to get real optimistic here, but we did not. I'm staying where I'm at. I'm staying at 10-7. While I did like a lot of the things that I saw, I am with the Bone Man over there in the graveyard when he says that the AFC is pretty stacked. So that's the only reason I don't give us any more wins. Is that didn't change. Still pretty stacked. So I see us at 10-7, but I do see us getting a wild card because I think the whole AFC is going to beat each other up, and I see us getting a wild card at 10-7. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Even if the AFC is really good, then that means there has to be some cannibalism in the AFC. Not every team in the AFC can win 12 games.
Some teams that a lot of people are banking on to win 12 games, 13 games, that's not happening.
Yeah,
because everybody's going to be too good. So I see us getting in at 10-7. Zach sees us, the Bone Man sees us in wild card at 11-6. I got wild card at 10-7, and Kenny's got us squarely out of the playoffs by far at 7-10.
But Kevin Stefanski will be fishing.
Well, there you go. So, any final thoughts on the season here?
I'm just ready to fucking go.
I know this offseason seems like it's dragged.
It's been so long, and I'm so excited for football to be back. I am just.
These next 2 weeks are going to take forever.
They are.
Waiting for game 1.
They are. Good thing me and the Bone Man are both going on vacation. Not together, separately. That'd be weird if I went with him on his anniversary trip, but...
Yeah, it's just the two of us.
Would be weird.
Yeah. But yeah, so you know what that takes us to?
The Hot Take Hotline?
It does take us to the Hot Take Hotline. Don't forget to call. I'm not even waiting for the sounder. You just play the sounder over me.
All right.
Don't forget to call and leave your hot takes on the Hot Take Hotline. Remember, these are hot takes. We want hot takes. We want hot takes. We want hot takes.
Hot cakes.
330-227-8080.
330-227-8080.
330-227-8080. Call now.
Burning River Sportscast Hot Take Hotline.
And be sure to check out our gear, www.thetappinmedia.com/shop.
Shop.
All right, so what can we expect next week?
Next week, we are officially back to every Thursday. And I couldn't be more excited about just being back to weekly.
Hell yes.
This is going to be a fun ride, win or lose, hell or high water. The hell ride begins next week as we get the show underway all the way through Browns season, the playoffs, and the Super Bowl.
Well, next week you will anyways.
Well, next week I will anyway because my entire crew is leaving me solo to...
He's the one-man band, baby!
So literally open the season for you guys. So we will be previewing the Week 1 matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals, interviewing a local Browns backers chapter, the Black Forest Browns Barkers,
Hell yes.
Or Browns Barkers backers. Browns.
It's Browns Barkers.
Browns Barkers.
The Black Forest Browns Barkers.
And we have a very special interview that I'm not even going to tell you who it's going to be because it's going to be super dope, and maybe we'll tease it later in the week. Also have any Cavs or Guardians news, which we won't because they blow. And this is a Browns podcast, so it's going to be my show. Basically, we might even talk a little politics next week. Who knows what we might get into.
If Kenny is your least favorite part of the show, then you could
don't watch.
You could skip that one.
You can skip it.
But yeah, so don't forget to check us out on social media. Tap-In Media is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Tap-In Media. And Burning River Sportscast, this podcast is on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Burning River Sportscast, and on X at Burning River Pod. And you can find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm talking Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Castro, Good Pods, and so many more. And do you know what that takes us to, Kenny?
Facts for days. I might even just bring a co-host next week that you guys don't even know about. Surprise guest
host.
Number one. When you think about the largest organisms in the world, you might picture
whales,
giant trees.
What was that?
Fungus.
That's definitely what I picture.
Well, Zach Bone Man, you are right. The largest single living organism based on area is a specimen of seagrass. It's a fungi. For reference...
This is why we can't have Bone Man on the show. He knows everything.
Sorry about that, Kenny.
For reference, this thing is the equivalent of 28,000 soccer fields.
Wait!
And if that wasn't as impressive enough, this is estimated to be approximately 4,500 years old. Just keeps growing out there.
Damn.
Huge.
What?
Number 2. Humans have been performing dentistry since 7,000 BC, which makes dentists one of the oldest professions in the book.
I feel like that could not have been good dentistry. 2/3, let's take it out.
I was actually reading, it was not the fact for a day, but here's a bonus fact, I guess. I was reading that Roman surgeons actually were just, you do a lot of training in medical school.
Yeah.
The Roman surgeons, a part of their training was just to ignore the screams of humans.
That's how good of a time it was when the Romans were around.
So they could get through their work. Number 3. This is an important one. I think that we should. This isn't going to get enough credit as an important fact, but this is an important fact because not all of you, but most of you, and some of you, at some point in your life, will have to do some kind of sobriety checkpoint and test. Humans cannot walk in a straight line without a visual point. So when blindfolded, no matter how long we walk, we will gradually eventually walk in a circle.
Why? Why do we do that?
We can't see.
That's the only reason. We have no.
That's why we evolved.
Internal, we gotta.
That's why we evolved optical acuity so that we can walk places.
Fair. I knew my eyes were.
Is
for
that
something.
what blind people get?
Well, they have the sticks for their
okay.
Stuff where they have guide dogs. My dog would be the worst guide dog.
She's been running around the studio just tearing shit up during the show. So.
Final bonus fact, second bonus fact for the day. I just thought this was. I just read a story this week and just thought this was fun. You can now get a headstone with an actual QR code.
Yes.
These are called living headstones, and they will show pages of photos, video biographies, and comments from loved ones. Downloaded straight off your headstone.
What happens when your worst enemy gets on there? It's just this guy was a complete fuck.
That would make for some interesting content. That's what I'm going to leave on your headstone.
Thank you.
I'm just going to put my own QR sticker on it.
Just, this guy was an asshole. No, let's be real here. You're not outliving me.
Guys, here's the thing. Thank you. Wait till I get gastric bypass. Here's the thing. Brown season is here.
It's here.
It's time.
Let's go.
It's time for the Burning River Sportscast. It's time for Brown season, baby.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hell yes.
And wherever you go, don't just be a part of the problem, be the whole damn problem.
And only you can prevent river fires.
Burning River Sportscast! Burning River!
That was a good one, guys. That was well done. we didn't even rehearse that.
No.
That was pretty good.
Bone Man came in there motorboating.
Yeah, I did a little motorboat.
You motorboating son of a bitch, you. I'm so turned up for football season.
Let's go!
Let's go! Let's go!
Now that you've all lost your eardrums, good night and goodbye.
Browns fan cruise and the Burning River Sportscast. What better combination could you possibly think of?
Motorboat? You play the motorboat? You motorboat son of a bitch. You old sailor, you.
My nipples were instantly hard.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome into the Burning River Sportscast presented by Tappan Media, and I forgot to let's start that over.
It doesn't matter what you think.
It's not even that I'm pessimistic. It's that if you have a glass and it's half full of water, and you say the glass is half full, and Zach says the glass is half empty, I'd say there's water in the glass.
What an idiot. Oh, what a loser.
Just, people are so heartless. Like, they're just all calling him hospital ward. And I'm like, guys,
Wow!
it's a person out there. He has a concussion. and you guys
Hospital
are just-
ward.
Yeah.
Erroneous on both counts.
But damn.
You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name. Ralph, I don't know where you're getting your statistics.
Where's Logo Girl when you need her?
I desperately want to make love to a schoolboy. Down goes Anderson! Down goes Anderson!
No way. You just finger banged their salad. What?
You first get shocked, and then you get the shocker.
Tappan Media. Today's episode was brought to you by Towpath Vodka. Towpath Vodka, an ultra premium, extremely smooth, high quality vodka, 6 times distilled and made from Midwest corn and Ohio fruit. Clean and crisp, a truly high quality spirit made right here in Northeast Ohio. Towpath Vodka.
Hey Browns fans, this is your chance to join the company of some of the Browns' all-time greats on the first ever Browns fan cruise. Picture this. For 5 unforgettable days, you're sailing across the beautiful Caribbean Sea, reliving the Browns' greatest moments, getting autographs, snapping photos, and celebrating on the beach with your favorite Browns alumni, like Josh Cribbs, Webster Slaughter, Eric Metcalf, and a dozen others. Book now and take advantage of our easy, budget-friendly payment plans on this once-in-a-lifetime, all-inclusive cruise adventure. The clock's ticking, Browns fans. To book your cabin and for more information, visit brownsfancruise.com or call 216-284-6472 today. Browns Fan Cruise, where diehard fans and Browns alumni come together for the trip of a lifetime. Don't wait, secure your spot today, and go Browns!